All right, guys. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll get into the latest here in just a few. We'll let some folks get on here. Let's see, cone, yeah, projected track. Yeah, we'll keep that on. Turn my comments, my chats on here. All right. Awesome, guys. Well, welcome this evening. Thank you for logging on here. Good evening to everybody. And once we get some folks a little bit more dialed in, we'll let the viewer count stroll in, and we will get up and running on the latest for tonight. To everyone saying thank you, appreciate that. You're absolutely welcome. Love to do it. So no problem in doing this. And again, it's something I love to do, to share this with you all. So again, I'm going to let some folks continue to dial in here, and we'll get going in just a moment. Okay, there we go. Good evening. Yeah, do me a favor, share this with your friends. Invite them in here, like, subscribe, share, tag, whatever you can do. Get some folks watching. We'll see some shares going. Once I see the shares up and running, we'll get running here. About another 60 seconds or so, and I'll be ready to rock and roll. Awesome. All right, guys. Good evening. So Michael Clark here with BAMWX.com, and we're going to get into an analysis tonight on the latest here with Major Hurricane Milton, currently a Category 5 hurricane with wind speeds at 165 miles per hour. All right, I'm going to go over here and I'll share this screen for you so you can kind of see what it is that we're looking at. I'll pop in my ugly mug here at the bottom so you can see me as well. And again, we'll get running here on the update. This is a look right now at just, again, the current advisory. We have 902 central pressure and 165 mile per hour winds. It is, in fact, a Category 5 hurricane. And we do have, people, we do have recon going through the storm currently, still kind of getting information, feeding us information so we can look at the information into our weather models and those types of things. So we are continuing to see the folks there feed us good content, good information through the storm. Taking a look at satellite, again, just an absolutely mesmerizing image this evening for sure. Again, you can see, we'll go here and pull that. There we go. You can see just how really perfectly symmetrical this is in terms of just a really big hurricane. It probably stretches about, about 250 so miles from north to south. So certainly interesting to see just how big it is. Mike, someone says, did you get socked in the cheek? Yeah, I've got a little red mark going on here tonight. I don't know if I went to the gas station and got gas, and I had to get the DEF fluid that you put in the diesel trucks. And I got some on my hand, and then I rubbed my face, and I think I'm having a little bit of a reaction to this DEF fluid on my face. So thanks for pointing that out. Whatever. Anyways, it is what it is. Yeah, I do have a red mark on my cheek, but nobody punched me, at least not yet. Someone might want to soon. But again, just this storm right now, in terms of a north to south or an expansiveness, is probably a little bit over 200 miles, and you can just kind of see just how a weird term for this is, but just how perfect it looks. It just looks perfect, and it's rather interesting to, fascinating, if you will, to watch it. We had some possibly minor indications that there could be another eye wall replacement cycle in its very infantry stages taking place, which again would just make sure, or that would just maybe make the hurricane um, grow in size yet again. So we're not saying that has started, but we're saying there seems to be maybe two maximums in the recon data that may indicate very entry level phases to perhaps another eye wall replacement cycle. It's definitely got plenty of time to do such. So you know, something to keep in mind. What would happen is this eye wall would go away, and coming out on the other side would be one quite a bit bigger and a storm quite a bit more expansive with its wind field. That is why. That is why I do not want to take away from the impact that we believe is going to happen, um, regardless of what category the storm is, as it touches land. Okay, so enough of the preliminary stuff. This is a look at the afternoon latest data on the consensus for the modeling in terms of where the track looks to go. Um, this is the hurricane models, and what we kind of call the consensus, everything kind of coming together. You can see here over the last several runs, we've seen a click south, and that click south seems to be about, let's see, in terms of miles, we've seen about a 20-mile shift southeast with data this afternoon. And so, this is certainly something that continues to suggest that maybe, a little bit of a southeast dive from the Tampa Bay area, which would be really ideal for Tampa Bay, to keep the worst of the storm out of the bay. But it's not ideal for the people south. So you take the bad from Tampa Bay and you put it in Sarasota. That's not really ideal. But you're just not going to be out of the woods here. You're going to be putting in 12 to 15 inches of rain across the central portion of Florida, along with hurricane force winds. So it's not like it's going to be some kind of walk in the park here, regardless. It may not be you get the most intense winds. Nonetheless, we're talking about where we think it possibly makes landfall. The interesting thing is that the Hurricane Center has stated in their discussion that you should allow for a 60-mile variance in where the hurricane makes landfall, which means from where it's at right now, they're stating that it could move 60 miles. I don't think that we're looking at a variance of 60 miles. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but it's interesting to note that the Hurricane Center would put that in their discussion, and rightfully so right now with the waffling back and forth of the hurricanes or the hurricane models. Okay. So with that said, I think a couple of things to point out here with this. These are the intensity models, right? The consensus of the intensity forecast. And I want to try to keep this simple for you. I don't want to complicate this because this could be a complicating or intimidating graph, if you will, just looking at this if you don't know what it is that you're looking at. I want to say someone said that DEF is corrosive, and my face actually feels like it's warm here. I may need to have my wife bring in like a warm rag real quick so I can clean my face off because it actually feels like it's burning. So give me 1 second. Anyways, sorry. This is an interesting question as I'm waiting for my rag to come in and wipe the chemicals off my face. So that's fun. Cody, you say our hurricane prediction is reliable. Well, listen, we have been predicting a hurricane to come into this area within a 25-mile deviation since Saturday. So if you ask me, I would say, yes, this is very reliable. We've been it's a 5-day lead with it. So yes, in my opinion, hurricane predictions are very reliable. So that's just my opinion. I think it's very, very reliable. So, um, okay. I'll tell you what, and this is a great comment here. Zach says going to probably be one of the biggest storms I've seen in my lifetime so far. I can't imagine why anyone would want to live through it. Yeah, I mean, you know, totally agree. Mitchell says, whose projections are? Someone says my face is burning off. I don't know if you see it, but so I'm gonna. There's the rag with stuff on it. So I'm just live in front of 4,000 people right now. So, excuse me while I wipe my face
your
off.
eyes.
It's okay, babe. See if we can get that off there. How about that? Thanks. Okay. Anyways, so no, but I just need a drink. Maybe Diet Pepsi or something. There's that. So yeah, you guys aren't helping me. You're saying pat it, don't rub it. You know, as I'm going here, I don't know. I've never had freaking death fluid on my face before. So ridiculous. Anyways, we're good. We're good. Get back to it. I'm going to get into the analysis, and there's a lot of you watching. The comments are absolutely pouring in. I trust me. I'll get to the questions. I want to get back to the analysis. Okay. This is again the consensus on the intensity guidance, and I want you to look where it says 10, 10, 0. Okay, I'm going to highlight it right there. See that 10, 10, 0 where my mouse is? Okay, that's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Okay, and the consensus is if you look at the trend here, you see these lines as they go up. The consensus is, and the trend is that the landfall intensity forecast would be increasing. There's one thing I want to say. I'm going to try this last night. This made the stream slow down, but there's one thing I want to say with intensity forecasts of hurricanes. The intensity forecast of hurricanes is historically not very good when it comes to what their intensity levels are going to be at landfall. And so our team right now has a forecast, and we've had a forecast of an intensity level a little bit more intense than what you're probably seeing from the Hurricane Center or mainstream media. And the reason for that is because historically we're underdoing it, or we're conservatively forecasting what the landfall intensity might be. So we have a little bit of a higher intensity, an intensity storm hitting land based on, listen, this happened with Helene. You know, we didn't have some of the folks were thinking that Helene would hit as a category 2, and it made landfall as a category 4 hurricane. It happened with Michael. It made landfall as a category 5. The last 12 hours of Michael's life, the hurricane that they retired the name from back in the day, that hit the panhandle of Florida, it just rapidly got stronger as it approached land. So this is not abnormal. It's not new. Just something to keep in mind. So slow upticks in intensity as it gets closer to landfall, in my opinion, not out of the question. All right. And it's just thinking outside of the box a little bit. It's kind of going, yeah, weather models are great tools, but it's kind of going in a different direction, if you will. All right. I'm going to pull in. I think this is probably the best way to view this. This is the afternoon hurricane guidance. This is the HMON. And what I was looking for is basically a model that was initializing with pressure the best. You know, it was basically saying, what's the current strength of the storm, the current location of the storm, because the models have struggled immensely with just initialization of the intensity and the intensity forecast of the model in general. The HMON, the afternoon run here, the 2 o'clock HMON has really done a good job with nailing not only the location, but the intensity of Milton right now, Major Hurricane Milton. Now, I will tell you, as we get into the analysis, I'd love to see you share it, tag a friend, and so make sure you're subscribing, following, and liking the channels here so you guys are getting the latest updates. All right, so tomorrow night, as this is making landfall, we will be live covering this for you, by the way. Landfall, by the way, is looking to be a little bit later, so it's going to be something else we're going to have to talk about. But let's get into the analysis, okay? I'm going to take you through here tomorrow morning when we wake up. This is continuing to suggest that intensification might occur. Pressure may get back down below 900 millibars. This wants to go to 897. That might be the 896 here tomorrow morning, might be the lowest. And then right as we start to see Florida show up, this is Tampa Bay right here, okay? Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton area, St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay, right up in here. Right as we start to see that kind of in the view, this is at 2 o'clock tomorrow, all right? Again, guys, I will get to your questions. I will get to your questions, all right? I see a bunch of questions here, a bunch of comments. I will get to them. There's thousands of you watching. A lot more than last night, too. Welcome, by the way. If you didn't join us last night, welcome. But look, this is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. This forecasting maximum winds here as tomorrow at 2 o'clock at 138 knots. So 138 knots in terms of miles per hour is 159 miles per hour, still category 5. All right. Then we jump down to 124 knots. 124 knots is 143 miles per hour, which is a strong category 4 hurricane, 5 o'clock tomorrow night, just off the coast there. In terms of how far away that would be, I have another tool over here that I'm kind of utilizing so I can give you the best of both worlds. Let's see, right, where are we at? Yeah, right there. In terms of how far away that would be at 21Z tomorrow, that would be, I'm going to turn that off. Right from land, from the eye wall, 50 miles west there. Okay, so not far off the coast right there before it starts to touch land at a category 4. Okay, this is 8 o'clock tomorrow night, 923 pressure, 128 knots. 128 knots on the miles per hour. Again, will be 147 miles per hour. It's still a high-end category 4 hurricane tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Okay, here is 11 p.m. Now the eye is getting pretty close at this point, and we're still seeing pressure at 932 millibars. All right, now I want to show you, let me see here. In fact, you guys can just, so you guys can see the pressure for the hurricanes. This is just a quick glance here. Maybe I can show you something. Here we go. Hurricane classifications, just so you guys can kind of see. 944 is the low end for category 4 hurricane pressure. All right. 920 or below is category 5, or 945 or below is basically category 4. So we go back to this. That is still category 4 strength at about 10 o'clock tomorrow night, according to the HMON. It still would be potentially category 4 strength if we're 939 pressure here as it's trying to make landfall. And then it's 949. We jump from 38 to 49 as we interact with land. And the HMON is saying this probably happens later, closer between the 2 to 5 a.m. time frame. That is later. It's slower. I want to show you some trends on this model with landfall, because this is 5 a.m. Thursday right now. Previous runs, you can see what it's done. It has slowed it down dramatically. It has really slowed it down. All right. You can kind of see as I'm jumping back and forth, it's really slowing down when it arrives. Now, again, as it's just approaching land, I think up until that low pressure, the center, that eye wall touches land, we believe it's a category 4 hurricane. That's our belief right now. And again, that is just based off of history and just underdoing intensity forecasts at landfall. All right. That's something we've seen time and time again for a long time. Okay. So this is, again, 2 o'clock in the morning, Thursday morning. So just kind of have to see if these models change on their timing. I'll tell you that a lot of models are really coming into agreement that it's more like 2 or 3 in the morning before this makes landfall tomorrow night. We'll know more as we get closer. Okay. Now, as it continues in over land, I will take it in over the central part of the state here. We're still seeing wind gusts of upwards of 80 miles per hour. Okay. As it tracks in over, getting into the Ocala area, the Villages, Disney World, where they're in the Orlando area, we're still seeing 971 pressure. 971 pressure is still potentially a Category 2 hurricane. You could argue there's still 90-mile-per-hour winds going on in this particular situation over Orlando. You've got 54 knot gusts, which is suggesting 62-mile-per-hour winds, not necessarily hurricane force winds, but we believe it can still be hurricane force winds over the central portion of the state, like over Disney World. I mean, if you can fathom that, it's certainly not out of the question that Disney World can have hurricane force winds overhead. In fact, if you ask the Hurricane Center and its forecast, it does keep it a hurricane over Florida. It's a Category 1 hurricane in eastern Florida. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Is this we're not weakening this thing below hurricane force winds as it goes over land. So all right, just pausing here, guys. Like, subscribe, follow the channel, wherever you're watching from. If it's Facebook, X, or YouTube, make sure you follow us. Share it, retweet it, tag a friend, share it on Facebook, post the link, invite someone in. As I just ask that you share the show, that you share it. If you're finding value, if it's informing you, if you think it's good information, we ask that you share it. All right. We put a lot of work and time and effort into these streams. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that are helping make all this happen. You might be you might see me talking and presenting you the information. There's a lot of people that are working behind the scenes to make all of this possible. So we ask that you share it and that you subscribe and follow along. Okay. Now, with that said, we'll get back to the analysis because I want to show you a couple things. I want to show you the American model ensembles because a lot of the hurricane models, what they are, this is the main nest of modeling is the GFS. It's the flagship model for NOAA, for the American models, and everything runs on what we call inner nests of the GFS. So that when the GFS runs with the ensembles, it dictates what all the other American model products are probably going to do. So when the operational run comes in, when all these little fancy spaghetti plots that you see come in, it gives us an indication of what those high-res models are going to do once they start to run. And so I want to show you something. This was the morning run at 8 a.m. This is the latest run. Now I'm gonna go back and forth here. Let me zoom out here, and I want you to watch the black line, the newest one, the oldest one, the newest one, oldest one, newest, oldest. What you're going to notice is a northwest trend with that. You're going to see that line bounce back to the northwest. Okay. As that line with the new run of data bounces back northwest, look at all of the spaghetti lines that were out of Tampa Bay. Okay. And now are back into Tampa Bay. You see the wobble in the modeling? That's why we're talking about the eye wall, the landfall with the center of the hurricane. We're not going to be able to nail it just yet. But the evening hurricane models that are about to come out are probably going to have a click back northwest because of what the outer nest, the GFS, did, and those internested models run within that. So the models are only as good as what they run from. We used to have an old saying of garbage in, garbage out, right? So just something to keep in mind there. Okay, so John, your comments over in Slack. Oh goodness. So that's kind of something I want to point your attention to. Now, with that in mind, here's what I would like to do. I would like to see if the evening intensity hurricane models have come in yet, because the 0Z ones should come in at any time. Oh, and here they are. What do you know? They've come in. All right, here they are. Now, I will tell you, these are not northwest. So my theory on this particular instance is not correct. I only have a few ones to choose from. Boy, those are even further, a little southeast. Someone's asking here, what time's the next model push? Well, right now, 0Z. Now these are not set in stone, but this is more like Venice Beach landfall. I want to share this window here over here with you and show you what this would mean. So you're kind of getting live data as I'm digesting it. I'm digesting it with you watching. So you're getting firsthand view of what I'm seeing with the models. And these newest runs are probably, here's Bradenton. Right now, the Hurricane Center has the track going right through here, which is what we have. This is the current track. I'm going to call that CT, current track. Okay, Sarasota. This evening models would potentially suggest this right here, which is Venice. We'll call that new track, if these are correct. Okay, so what's really interesting here is that's a shift in things. That's an 18-mile shift southeast for the eye, or the center to impact land. So it's very, very interesting. I'm going to pull up another set of models here. A few more from Tropical Tidbits. We'll go to the 0Z global and hurricane models. Here they are. Yeah, I mean, if you look at these, if I zoom these in, you can see none of these models. Let me switch my screen share here. Are in Tampa Bay. Gosh, some of these, John, I don't know if, I know you're watching, but good night. Some of these, man, are down near Cape Coral. This is another dramatic shift to the south and east. Wow. Some of these go as far south as Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, North Fort Myers Beach. This is interesting nonetheless. I mean, yeah. So while we're kind of analyzing these models as I'm talking with you and talking to my team here, John, why don't you adjust the cone a little bit, send over a new map that I can share, and maybe take the main track a little bit, maybe adjust that a little bit. So, and this is the thing. I want to make sure you all understand this. I see a comment here that says it'll change again by tomorrow. Listen, we're not denying that. Okay. We're not denying that these are going to continue to wobble back and forth. And I will tell you that the Hurricane Center has right now an error or a track variance of 60 miles. And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I don't think it's 60 miles, but this is a big shift because, from this morning, late this time last night, 24 hours ago, okay, I can tell you that we really thought we were pretty confident in a dead center St. Petersburg track. I would say since 24 hours ago, we now have models that have shifted as far southeast as 50 miles. Okay. So something to keep in mind is these are, these are some interesting trends. Okay. Yeah, we've got a little guy in the background. You can come and say hi real quick, and then he wants you to go get with mommy. Come here and say hi. This is Lucas. So Lucas just did you take a shower tonight? Ready for school tomorrow? He likes to come in here and see what we got going on. So okay, go get mommy for me. Love you, bud. So yeah, I'll tell you, I'm a little concerned with. Are you okay? You good? He tripped over the. Can you plug that back in for me in the back? Did you see where it goes? He tripped over the wire. Hang on. Help me get it. You okay? Yeah. Okay. You gotta love it. So, anyways, back to the analysis again. Ton of you watching. Thank you all for bearing with me here. We just it's real time analysis tonight with the trend here southeast in these models. This is certainly fascinating to see this, and you can kind of see what it's like to digest. Yeah, Brian, you don't want to see this setup behind the scenes. Wires are everywhere. To kind of digest the data as it comes in real time when dealing with a storm like this. So this, you kind of get an idea of, yeah, I mean, may have to shift everything southeast with this current thinking. So I'll go back over here to the data. I want to keep talking about this with you. And again, this was the 18Z data, the HMON data that was indicating where the landfall would be right here in St. Pete, still northwest. Hi. And so now we have quite a bit of a change here of that possibly being a lot further south. All right, these winds. This is certainly new information. So we'll get back over to the data I have lined up here, and you guys can see the 0Z tracks there. Now again, I want to prove a point to you that this was the 12Z tracks. All right, so the 12Z tracks, you can see they were covering up Tampa Bay. They were covering up St. Petersburg. And so I want to show you this. I want you to understand what it is that I'm seeing is just 12 hours ago, we had data runs that were covering St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay area. All right. So we've seen a 30 to 50 mile shift southeast. The GEFS and its ensembles kind of went back north and west. Here's what you don't want to do in this situation. You don't want to chase the data. You don't want to change it every time it comes in, but you certainly want to be abreast to the trends. The trends are your friend, and you want to see what the trends are doing. Okay. This is encouraging news for the Tampa Bay area. It's not encouraging news for the Sarasota, Venice Beach, Port Charlotte areas, North Fort Myers Beach. It's not good news for them. Listen, they got hit hard not too long ago. Okay. They got hit really hard. So they're still recovering from that. They're still recovering from getting hit with that, from getting hit with Hurricane Ian. I'll bring that over here for you so you can see that when that hurricane hit. Go back here and switch this. This wasn't long ago where that happened, and you can see what that hurricane did at landfall there. Not good. It made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane. So now Milton did not come from down here in the MDR, main development region, down and through Cuba, and cross land. Milton is not doing that. Milton originated in the Western Gulf. So this is Hurricane Ian, by the way. Okay. So this was Ian in 2022. And that's the one I'm talking about. Now, there's also another one that you all are probably thinking about, and there's a Hurricane Irma. And Irma was also an incredibly strong storm, and that was in 2017. That was a $77 billion storm that killed 135 people. It also came from a little bit of a different spot, but here is Irma, okay? It came all the way over from the Atlantic off the coast of Africa. So you've got two different storms. Irma is 2017 and Ian is 2022. But this area has continuously been decimated with hurricanes. Okay. So it's interesting to see the data tonight favor this area yet again. It's not what you want to see, but it's the trend in the data. So you have to talk about it. You have to share it. So you're just kind of getting a live analysis. This is what it is. So let's go to a couple things here. Yeah, that's quite a bit. This would represent where the eye would go, with the black line representing the trend. Yeah. John, so the second one. Yeah. So that cone, you've got that cone is about a spread of what? Your cone's about a 85-mile spread from north to south. Okay. I'll share that with the stream here in just a moment. Thanks for sending that, John. So I will replace if there were some adjustments that had to be made, I'm going to share that screen now so you guys can see what it is we're talking about. And there it is. Okay. Now from Fort Myers, which is just south here, Cape Coral, up to Bradenton, if you look at that uncertainty of where that would go, you're looking at, again, about 85 miles. That's an 85-mile spread in that cone there. The evening data would hint at, yet again, this being somewhere between Northport and Punta Gorda. Okay, north of Fort Myers a little bit, coming in Category 4 just before it touches land. Thursday, it probably makes landfall around 2 o'clock in the morning, Thursday or so. Again, I want to preface the best way to look at this. The best way to look at this. I'm not sure what just happened. I've just lost my screen share. That was weird. The best way to look at this is the spread, okay? From Bradenton to Cape Coral right now. That's where this could make landfall. Okay, best way to look at it. We're just not going to know right now. It's not possible to know for sure. I can't come on here and say for certain it's going to make landfall in Northport. That would be silly. As I said last night, the thought process being that the Tampa Bay area, that was our thought process for several days, and now it's changing. No, that's not true, Mitchell. I don't actually agree with your statement. I mean, listen, a good forecaster has to come up off of the confirmation bias of wanting to be right, of saying, well, this is what I said, so this is what it should be. No, you've got to go with the trends. You've got to go with the trends. I want to show you something that's probably important to look at. I want to show you something that needs to probably be analyzed. And we're going to look at the southeastern U.S. trough and the upper level jet stream. There's a jet streak over the southeastern U.S. that is likely going to have its hand in this. And this is some advanced forecasting going on. It may come across as a bit difficult to understand, but I'll explain it to you so you can understand it the best way possible. Okay. Let me turn my screen share on here. So I want to show you the GFS model. In fact, I'm going to go to the EPS 12Z run. Okay. I want you to look at this area right here, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. I want you to look at the arrows. I want you to look at this area right here. And I want you to watch this. I'm going to go previous run. Note how that area, watch over in Georgia and South Carolina. This is very subtle. If you blink, you'll miss it. Watch Georgia and South Carolina. Watch the solid black lines going through the state. Watch them flatten out more. Instead of going southwest to northeast, they flatten out and go more west to east. This is the tilt in the upper level trough. Watch it again. Watch the trend. It's very, very, very clear trend in the data. This trough is trending weaker. The interaction with the southeastern U.S. jet streak is not as significant now because that trough is trending weaker. Therefore, not pulling the storm as far northwest as once was earlier modeled. This is where you take forecasting into play, trends of other features. It's things other than just watching weather models and giving a model prediction. Watch it again. You should see it very clearly. It does it. That's the European ensemble. I'm going to show you the GFS, or the American ensemble, because it was doing it even more so. Watch this. Look at how much those winds were tilted back southwest to northeast. Watch them flatten out. Watch the trough flatten out. Even the jet streak starts to connect here a little bit. There's actually a connection in the jet streak. So let me explain this to you in the best way that I possibly can. What happens is, in the southwest portion of this, where you see these colors, this is the right entrance level of the upper level jet streak. The air in that right entrance level, or entry region of that jet streak, is conducive for upward motion and rising. Okay, conducive for development of low pressure and storm systems. The trough was acting to kind of pick Milton up and interact it with that southeast jet streak, allowing for northwest clicks in the forecast. As we've gotten closer to the forecast period, the models have over-modeled the strength of the trough in the southeastern U.S. Hence, it's less interaction with the jet streak. Hence, it's not as northwest now. It's more southeast. The jet streak, the interaction of the trough in the southeast U.S. is not having as much of an influence on it as it was 24 hours ago. And that's the meteorology side of it. That's the analysis side of watching trends. You've got to watch trends to see what's going on. And that's clearly what we're dealing with here. Okay. Which is why we're probably seeing these clicks southeast. So again, what does that mean for Tampa? Well, that's good for Tampa. Okay. But again, it is not good for our friends down here in Punta Gorda, Cape Coral area, Venice Beach. It's not good for them. So, St. Pete, Tampa area, the eye wall, the center of Milton, now not projected to go here, now more favored about 40 miles southeast of that. So the shift there, meaning more intense sustained winds, hurricane force winds here. What's still going to happen that you all have to understand, you're still not going to get away from prolific levels of rain and historic storm surges. That's not going to go away. Okay. These are the types of comments that really floor me. I've got to share this. Samuel, you win dumb comment of the day. I'm going to be so annoyed if Tampa misses the 100-year storm of the century. Gotcha. That's interesting. That comment tops the books for me for dumb today. I don't know anyone that would want to wish this situation into where they live. So I don't think anyone has any clue what a 15-foot storm surge would do to your area off the west coast of Florida. So that's a silly comment to make. But I'm sorry you're going to be annoyed that you're not going to get wiped off the map. Sorry about that. So come on, guys. There are people that are going to lose everything that they have. You understand? Like, people are going to lose everything that they own in their homes. Like, their homes are going to be like floating into the ocean. And you're worried about your weather forecast. You know what I'm saying? Come on. You got to address this type of stuff. It's crazy. I mean, what the hell? That's the best thing I can say is what the hell? So anyways, comments like that, they just get addressed, but we don't wish that on people. We don't wish the center of this storm to go over anyone. In fact, we wish that the interaction, the trends would cause it to weaken. And so it's less of an impact to people and their livelihoods as everyone is freaking out as the storm's headed their way. So, by the way, back to the analysis. This is kind of the evening data trend. Now, here's what I want to make sure I point out to you. I want to make sure that you guys understand this. As we're looking at this does not mean that the models can't go back northwest a little bit tomorrow. We've got to keep that variance for error in there. Again, we cannot guarantee that we're going to have one outcome here just because a couple of runs came in and we're going to say, well, we guarantee it's Northport now. Sorry, Bradenton, you're out. And then next thing you know, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we're thinking could be Bradenton. Travis, I don't like that comment. Please exit the stream. Just go somewhere else. Listen, if you're bored, we're talking about a storm that is going to impact millions of people's lives. Go somewhere else. Do something different. Go play a video game or something. I don't know. So I want to get back over here. For those of you that are new, that are watching, I don't know if you've ever watched me before, but we don't tolerate that kind of. We just don't tolerate stuff here. We just call it as we see it. If you don't like that, this isn't the stream for you. You should go watch a different stream. But anyways, Brian makes a great point. All right, Brian, right, where'd you go? Where'd your comment go? It's being swallowed. Brian makes a great point, which is the B in BAM, by the way. It says, the track is the track. The hurricane doesn't care about an imaginary line. It's so true. These storms, they don't care if you're under the warning, if you're under the watch, if the Weather Service issues an advisory or a statement for you or whatever the case may be. They're not following those lines that are made up on a map. The storm's going to go where it wants to go. So, great point. Okay. We are chill over here on X. Yeah. All right. So again, a lot of you watching, subscribe, like, share, tag a friend, everything you all do to continue to promote the stream. Please do so people can be informed. No. Teresa, you have to, here's the thing. You have to comment on the trolls. You have to address them. Here's the problem. I'm going to go on a little rant. Problem in today's world is a lot of people get away with saying things on here that they should never say. And the problem is we've let them say them. We've let people say these things and talk to people in poor ways. And the problem is we've allowed this behavior on social media. We don't allow it here. Okay. So, and I'm not out here for approval or for you to tell me that anyone in general thinks it's right or it's wrong. It's just what we talk about, whatever we want to talk about. Okay. So let's get back to the analysis. All right. We'll go over here I want to talk about rainfall. Okay. I want to talk about rainfall. This is the rainfall forecast right now. And again, if the low continues to shift a little bit southeast, these rainfall forecasts, what they could do is continue to come southeast a little bit. Nonetheless, we certainly have the potential to see 8 to 12 inches of rain in locally higher amounts. It is certainly going to be a very, very nasty event, a storm for a ton of rain, regardless of if the eye comes into the center of where you live. Okay. You're still looking on the northwest side of the low at hurricane force winds and a foot or more of rain. So I need you to understand that places like Orlando, Central Florida, and it certainly can still be a really nasty storm. No question. I also want to talk about the storm surge. All right. The storm surge, while it could shift southeast, these forecasts were generated off of a storm track a little bit farther northwest. Okay. You're still looking at a significant storm surge potential. Now the storm surge 10 to 15 feet could shift down further to the Fort Myers area, possibly. All right. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that regardless whether the hurricane makes landfall, the storm surge of 10 to 15 feet is really, really difficult to understand. It's really hard for you to imagine what that would do to you if you haven't lived through that. It's worst case scenario. It's really, really bad. All right. So once it hits the middle part of the state, what other mile per hour? Renato, what's up? Good evening, dude. Once it hits middle Florida, what mile per hour can the wind be? Probably still 60 to 80 miles per hour, sustained winds. It'll still be hurricane force winds, maybe even 70 to 90 miles per hour over the central portion of the state. Keep in mind, that's a sustained wind. It's certainly not out of the question to keep that wind going for that period of time. I'll tell you what, I'll show you real quick here. We'll go over here to states, Florida, and I'll show you the wind gust forecast as it goes across central Florida. And you can kind of see here, look at that. Hurricane force winds still well within the picture here across the state. These are 95 mile per hour winds. So you can still see just how nasty those winds would be. That the models are indicating there as it goes over the central portion of the state. So I'm going to take some questions. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start looking at some questions a little bit. Let's see. Thank you for all the nice comments, by the way. Those are appreciated. I see a lot of you saying nice things. Indiana National Guard just got a text that said, pack your bags and wait for orders. Interesting. Yeah, I could see people needing help down there. Just sick. My family is in Port Charlotte and they refuse to leave. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I hope the best for them. I hope the best for them, if it goes that far south. So thanks, Renato. Yep. Thanks, man. With less interaction with the jet streak, is it possible for a stronger storm at landfall? Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the question, Andy. I still think that this is just a really, really strong hurricane at landfall. I really do. Regardless of the interaction with that interaction with it actually could allow for it to be a little bit stronger. So just kind of something to keep in mind there, that kind of an unknown there. So thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you guys. All the nice comments, tons of them there. It's very nice of you. Destin area, all good. Looks that way. Yeah. In fact, I'll be leaving to drive there on Friday myself. Part of me kind of feels a little guilty that I'm going on vacation. Actually, I'm leaving Thursday. My apologies. But yeah, I'm not anticipating a storm surge, rainfall, or maybe some gusty winds. But the overall, the panhandle of Florida will remain largely unaffected here. So I appreciate that, Jory Jones. This is a good question. Why would the hurricane weaken as it comes closer to land? Well, the hurricane would weaken as it comes closer to land because the land and the shallow waters and those types of things obstruct the storm's ability, the storm circulation. So it's a great question, but the land interaction just causes the storms to weaken. Bo, this is a great question right here. I like this. I like this question. What is your gut saying without thinking too much into it? I think it's a Category 4 hurricane at landfall, and then it starts to weaken once it touches land. That's my gut on that. Okay. Ooh, Toby, this is a good question. Is it harder to forecast a winter storm or a tropical storm? Yeah, they're both equally hard. I mean, I can think of snowstorms that have just flat out pimped me all around, and I can think of, hurricanes that are very difficult as well, like this one that we're talking about right here. So, okay. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. Is there another storm coming after this one? No, I don't see one recent in the near future. I do see late October, early November, the chance for the tropics to heat up again. 902, that's my vote. Brian said winter, that's his vote. I mean, you could argue that winter is certainly probably harder. It depends on what day you ask me, what storm we're dealing with, One interesting thing I want to note to you guys, someone said, forget where I see the comment, says 902 millibars, that's a lot of energy. I want to tell you that a Category 3 hurricane, not even a Category 5, a Category 3 hurricane has enough energy in it to power the entire Earth's energy budget for an entire year. I hope you understand what I just said. There's enough energy in a Category 3 hurricane to power the entire Earth's energy budget for a whole year, let alone a Category 5 hurricane. How much energy you could imagine is in that storm. Now, what do you do with that information? Not much, but you understand how much energy you're working with here. So just something to keep in mind there, right? That it's a lot of energy with that. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy stat. I remember reading that in one of my textbooks going through Mississippi State. I thought, wow, what in the world? That's a mind-boggling thought there. Tracy says, what's the black storm cell in front of the hurricane? It's just an area of thunderstorms and rain. It's just an area. It's a trough or disturbance, little shortwave there. It's nothing. It's rain and storms before the rain and storms, if you will. So, are hurricane and tornado low pressures explained the same? No, they're a bit different. Tornadoes are quick and violent. Tornadoes or hurricanes are a little bit more longer lasting and sustained. Lowest pressure in history, I believe, is Hurricane Allen. I think it was 8. Gosh, I can't remember what it was. 885 or something crazy. This is a good comment. Can you explain the significance of where the eye hits? You said earlier today it is trending south, which is good for Tampa Bay, but it won't make much of a difference. Please help me understand. Absolutely. Great question. Great question. I would like to help you understand that. Listen, when the eye hits a certain spot, we'll go back to just a map that I can draw on. When the eye hits a certain spot, what you get is essentially the eye will come in. Let's say if it touches right here, okay, in Laurel and Northport, Florida, your low pressure center rotates like this in a cyclonic form, okay, and it rotates. The winds rotate around the low or the center of the hurricane like this. The momentum as the wind is wrapping around the low pressure center is strongest on the southeast side of the low. That's where it's tossing in the strongest wind, the most water. And if you can imagine, as it's wrapping around, it's taking all this sheer brute force and it's just going, all right, wham, like this. Okay. That's kind of how you want to boom, like that. That's where you're getting the most force or the strongest sustained winds on the southeast side of the area of low pressure. So right where that eye were to make landfall, again, you're going to get the strongest sustained winds and the most damage from hurricane force winds on the south and eastern portion of the eye, as those winds are being forced into the coastline, backed by water and things like that. It's called the dirty side of the eye. Okay. And that is essentially why they call it that. That's the part you don't want to deal with. Now, again, listen, you're still dealing with hurricane forced winds on the backside that are still incredibly strong. You're still getting absolutely decimated here. So, both sides suck. Don't get me wrong. Both sides are horrible to be in, but this is the worst case in terms of looking at how that, just why you kind of maybe want to avoid the eye. The backside of the eye is nasty as well. I mean, listen, it's all nasty. It's just the nastiest part is the southeast part. And listen, here's the other thing I want to talk about with this storm. As it gets closer to land, I want you to understand that the hurricane right now is actually probably, it's actually, I need to zoom out a little bit more. It's actually going to have a broader impact. It's probably going to be felt of about 220 miles up and down the Florida coast. Okay. And that is the wind field from the hurricane, which that's why the storm surge is all the way up and down the coast. That's why you're going to have hurricane-like conditions all the way up and down Florida's west coast. The other thing about the center of the storm that helps us understand where the heaviest rain is going to fall. Let's say the center of the storm comes here in this area once again. This is the low of Milton. On the northwest side of the low pressure system, you get what's called deformation axes, banding and things like that. On the northwest side of the low pressure centers. They're not necessarily probably called that in a hurricane. Here in synoptic patterns in the US, we call them this, but nonetheless, this is where your banding of very heavy rain occurs. This is where you're going to get a foot or more of rain on the northwest side of these low pressure centers. Okay. You're also on the eastern side of these lows, you're going to get a lot of tornadoes. You're going to get spin ups as the storms are spinning around the periphery of the low pressure center. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. You've got tornadoes, you've got heavy rain, you've got the worst of the wind, you've got storm surge, you've got all this stuff that hurricanes bring with it. It's just flat out just nasty in general. Okay. So 7,000 of you watching right now. Welcome. Michael Clark, BAM Weather, BAMWX.com. Make sure you're following, subscribing, liking the pages, turning notifications on for when we go live so you can see it, because tomorrow night as this thing approaches land, we will be live and analyzing this for you. Okay. So great question. No, I'm not drawing. Listen, who is this? Yeah. Hang on. Yeah, I'm not trying to draw a radius, Brian. I'm just talking about how far up and down the coast it's going to be. Don't look at the circle. Look at the line I'm drawing here. Okay, that's how I'm talking about the impacts being felt across the coast, just to clear things up for you guys. So 240 miles of impacts up and down the coast here. That's how wide that hurricane stretches. And I kind of illustrate this for you. I can do that by showing you something here on the current satellite. I want to go over here and show you this. You see these latitude and longitude squares. All right, each square is basically 2 degrees longitude. I believe it's about 140 miles per square. So this one's about half of that one. It's about 200 miles in terms of that, how expansive that is, if that makes sense. And as it gets closer, it's possible that that grows in size. So That makes sense. Don says, what about birds caught up in the eye? Yeah, I mean, there were recon yesterday reported there were birds caught in the eye of the hurricane. They probably die, or they're there until they're not going to make it out. So they probably just die. Interesting comment here from Lodi. They say, Weather Channel has not shown Milton to possibly change the path. Yeah, they're probably about 6 hours behind. The Weather Channel is not going to change until the National Hurricane Center changes, until the evening model runs come in. You have to understand something about the Weather Channel. It's a entity powered by marketing and advertising, and a lot of the people following the models, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So, okay, just kind of getting caught up on comments here. We've been live for over an hour, and there are over 7,000 of you watching. What other questions can we answer here? What other questions can we answer? Kemper, thank you. Kemper clarified that when I said Hurricane Allen earlier, that was for winds. That was 190 mile per hour winds. That was the strongest one there. Hurricane Wilma had the lowest pressure at 882. And John also said the birds die. Yeah, I would agree. They die for sure. They just, you're not going to be able to get out of there. So, what do you have here, John? What are you sharing with me? Oh, the old 0Z trips. Bringing it in there into just south of Sarasota, huh? Okay. Will it go back north again with the track? Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question that it can go back north. Again, we don't want to exclude changes in the model tracks right now. Will Tampa Bay still have 10-foot plus storm surge? It's going to be close. We'll have to see what the Hurricane Center does with their 11 p.m. advisory and their storm surge. I'm not a storm surge expert. I'm just not. I don't know enough about it to speak a lot on it. So I will be very curious to see what happens there with that. I can tell you that I do have a storm surge tool on our Clarity product, and it has gone down a little bit in its severity, but it still is indicating a 9-foot plus storm surge in the St. Petersburg area. It needs to update, but nonetheless, if you look at the Hurricane Center storm surge forecast, it was all the way up to Anclody River, Anclody, if I'm saying that right. I don't know how to pronounce it. But I'm just not a storm surge expert on. I know that if the eye of the hurricane shifts south, obviously the storm surge will shift with it as well. It'll shift south and east as well with it. But the question is going to be, I think, could you still see a 5 to 10 foot storm surge in Tampa Bay just based on this map? Absolutely. So the 10 to 15 could slide southeast by 40 or 50 miles. We'll have to see what the Hurricane Center decides to do with. They've probably got some proprietary modeling that helps with the storm surge forecast that will help them make those projections. So we'll have to kind of wait to see on that one. But yes, it's a great point there, Brian, that the storm surge is always going to be worse on the south side, the dirty side of the low pressure center, because as we just discussed, that's where the winds are. Everything is forcing it up in there. In fact, if you think back to Ian, I believe Ian actually, because the center of Ian went southeast of Tampa Bay, it actually sucked the water out of Tampa Bay because the winds were coming from the northeast on the northwest side of the low. And so it drew all the water out of the bay and put it all down in on the southern side of the low pressure center. So yeah, I mean, it absolutely emptied Tampa Bay. And I could certainly see that being possible with Milton if it continues its trajectory or its trend right now with a southeast uh, tick here in landfall. So we will want to keep that in mind. We will want to watch that for sure. Um, yeah. So great points there. John, I would here, I'll type it. Are tornadoes common ahead of the hurricane in the black section you pointed out earlier? Not ahead, um, not ahead, but it certainly isn't impossible. You're going to have tornadoes with the hurricane on the east side of the low. So, could it still go farther south, Missy? I mean, yeah, I can't say that. I can't say that it won't at this point. I mean, there's no way to know how far south it's going to be able to go. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've got new data coming in too. It's interesting to share. Um, the HRRR is a high resolution weather model that's ran here in the U.S. It's not a hurricane model, but it's in close enough view that we could at least see what it's doing. Yeah, there's the HRRR. You can see what it's doing with the low pressure center. Okay, it's again south of Tampa Bay. The HRRR underdid Helene big time. It underdid the intensity big time. Someone said the 18Z model runs are unreliable. That myth was debunked years ago. In fact, all the model runs 0Z, 18, 6Z, 12Z all have very similar skill scores. Some better than others, some worse than others at times. Depends on the time and the day and the storm and the situation. But there's not a particular set of runs that are more or less accurate than others. That myth has been around for a long time, but it's not true. When you look at model skill scores, there is no actual statistical data that supports that claim. Just so everyone's aware. I know why you said it because a lot of people think it, but it's not true. So, yeah, again, interesting look there. Again, the HRRR, it has a history of really underdoing these, the intensity of these rather significantly, but you can see what it does here. Is Michael Pruitt in here on the chat? I see someone says that my daughter is currently at Heather Ellis. Heather, yeah. My daughter is currently at a base camp for an ambulance strike, a team in Fort Myers. Sure wish they would have moved them inland. Stay safe. Wow. Yeah, stay safe. It's crazy. Cynthia said, "Do night temps for hurricanes help cool or lessen the severity?" They don't. They don't. No. Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate that. Cape Coral. Someone says Cape Coral, please. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that means, but if you're talking about the update, there's certainly the potential that Cape Coral is going to feel a lot more intense hurricane-like conditions than it was than what we were thinking about 24 hours ago. We're thinking landfall right now probably going to be closer to that 1 to 3 a.m. time frame. So I'm going to show that map, and then I'm going to wrap this up. I've been live now for an hour and 15. And I've talked about everything I can. I want to make sure you guys understand a couple of things. I want to make sure you understand there's been a big southeast trend in data the last 24 hours by about 50 miles. All of the weather model data, it's not just data I look at or data one guy sees, and it's all the weather model data. It's all doing it. The trends are there. People are seeing it. It's nothing made up. Okay, it's a real deal. Right now, the thought process is tomorrow night, Thursday, very early in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. All right. You're going to possibly see Hurricane Milton somewhere between Bradenton and Cape Coral right now. That's the thought process. This is between Bradenton and Cape Coral is about, I'm going to draw that again one more time so I'm right. It's about 75 miles. That cone is about 75 miles. Okay. And that's the cone of uncertainty right now for where Milton will make landfall. Wayne, I appreciate that. Thank you, Wayne Bowles. Hope you're well. But that's the thought process is there's been a clear trend southeast. So the storm surge, the most intense weather from Hurricane Milton may shift southeast a little bit. And we need to watch that here over the course of the next 24 hours. We've got 24 hours now to really nail this down. And we really need about 12 to 16 more solid hours to really get a good idea on this. So this is the thought process right now. We will continue to keep you all posted. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, share, repost, comment, tag, anything you can do to help us reach more people. We greatly appreciate that. We greatly appreciate all the interaction tonight, all the comments, and all the nice things that are being said, and all the great questions. So we appreciate you all, and hope you all stay safe and stay tuned for further updates. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. I'll probably have an update for you all live tomorrow morning, probably around about 8 a.m. We'll keep you posted. Take care.